today is the wicked talented musician and storyteller, Jennifer Armstrong. Come on out here, Jennifer.
Hey!
Yay! Oh, thanks for coming.
Oh,
Come
glad
sit
to
down.
be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. I made some ginger snaps. This is from my friend Lori Graves, and she has the blog Notes from the Hinterland, and these are her Aunt Rochelle's ginger snaps. Don't they smell good?
They smell great.
I ate 3 when they were hot. Don't tell anybody.
I won't say a word.
And they are crispy. So, Jennifer, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I don't even know where to begin. So I was looking at your website, because I've known you quite a long time, and we performed together. You've been MCs at some storytelling events. I saw a picture of your mom and dad, which I've heard you talk about, but I've never seen, with Studs Terkel. Now, what is the scoop with that?
Well, here's the scoop.
Okay.
My parents met on WFMT radio, which is the program that Studs Terkel, the station Studs Terkel had his program on. And the story goes that they were both asked up to the station to play music on the midnight special. And my mother tells the story that there was this fabulous piper who dressed up in kilt, sporin jacket for a radio show.
That's a dedicated Scotsman.
It's very dedicated, and she thought he was someone she needed to meet. So she went and introduced herself, and they danced the Gay Gordons up and down the halls there at FMT, and their first date was to go Scottish country dancing.
Oh, how wonderful.
So there it was.
A match made in heaven,
I think
introduced
so.
by Studs Terkel.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, you grew up playing music, right? How many instruments do you play?
Well, I play, what do I play? I play the bagpipe.
Yeah.
I play the banjo, the guitar, fiddle, the lap dulcimer, the bowed psaltery. I have a
I don't even know what
boron.
that is.
I didn't bring that one.
I know.
And harp. I have a Celtic harp.
Oh, wow.
How many was that? I lost track.
Yeah, and you started playing really young, right?
Well, the instruments that we had in the house growing up, my mother played guitar and dulcimer, lap dulcimer, and she had an auto harp, and my father played the bagpipe. So he wanted to learn to play fiddle and decided it was too hard. So my sister and I learned to play fiddle. And then when I was 12, I took banjo lessons at the Old Town School of Folk Music with a whole group of folks.
Is this in Chicago?
This is in Chicago.
Yeah.
It was on West Armitage Street at the time. And that was great. That was great. It was always this big group of people, and we'd gather in Brunsey Hall for all the different classes would gather and all play, out of the same tune book. And the song I always think of, I don't know why, is this song that goes, "We come on the sloop John B, my grandfather and me," because there was a particular little strum that Ray Tate taught every guitar student that went through the Old Town School, and it was perfect on, "We come on the sloop John B, like that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Anyway,
And how young were you when you started playing your first instrument?
I was probably, my parents, for their honeymoon, bicycled around Europe with a half-size guitar. So I started playing the half-size guitar when I was 5.
Wow.
And the lap dulcimer, we tried, and the auto harp when we were little, like that. The fiddle I started when I was 8. As I say, banjo 12, bagpipes when I was 13.
Wow.
Because you see, I was born the night the Black Watch Bagpipe Band played in Chicago, and my father had to leave the concert to take my mother to the hospital.
Ah.
And 13 years later to the day, the Black Watch Bagpipe Band was playing in Chicago. And so my father took me to the concert and gave me a practice chanter. It's a small instrument that you learn to play on, figuring that it was my fate to learn to play. And I've always wondered about this, and you might have some insights. That night at the Black Watch Bagpipe concert, when I was 13, our car was stolen.
Wow.
What does that mean about my bagpipe career? I've always wondered.
Yeah. Wow. Well, if you dance, you have to pay the piper, I guess.
I guess so.
So, did you learn to play the bagpipe to be close to your dad?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so, because he always talked about, well, the Armstrongs were a border clan. They were from the Cheviot Hills between England and Scotland.
And you have an Armstrong.
And I do.
tartan
I
on
have
today.
Armstrong tartan.
Yeah.
And my father's father had come over from York, England, to the United States when he was 18, and didn't really have much interest in the Scottish history, which my father loved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he thought if he learned to play the bagpipe, somehow it would foster this connection not only to his father, but to the home country.
Yeah.
And his parents just hoped he'd outgrow it. You know?
Bagpipes have a bad reputation, don't they?
They do. They do. But since I sort of knew that whole story,
Yeah.
and there's this unspoken expectation in a musical family that you are going to carry on. And certainly the bagpipe, being from Scotland, there's sort of even more of this hereditary
Yeah.
storyline
Yeah.
that you're wanting to. And it's all these traditions that he had with the bagpipe of playing Old Lang Syne at FMT radio station on New Year's Eve at midnight, of piping up the sun at the lakefront on Lake Michigan for the summer solstice on June 21st, of opening up the University of Chicago Folk Festival every January with the bagpipe. So I remember when, after my father had passed away, and this person called me, who my dad used to play at this big bonfire that they had in the fall. And I called my sister and I said, "Oh, Rebecca, I kind of feel like I have to say yes because it's the tradition. Our father always played at that bonfire." And she said, "Don't do it. He hated that gig. He didn't know how to get out of it. Don't continue it." So, whew. So I was off the hook on that one.
Yeah, but I love this sense of carrying on tradition. And I heard you tell a story once, and it still affects me. And I would love for you to tell that story right now about piping for your dad. Can you tell me that?
I can.
I'm starting to tear up
And it was
already.
an important time to carry on the tradition, and I was really glad I could. My father, as I mentioned, opened the University of Chicago Folk Festival every year in Mandel Hall. And he got Alzheimer's. And in the early stages,
hard, right?
it's a hard one.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "You know, when the bagpipes go, that's it." That's what? That's it. So the University of Chicago Folk Festival came along, and he said he wanted to pipe. So my mother and I both, banded together to make this happen, right? He could play only one song. He was down to one song that he could remember. And he didn't remember how to put the kilt on. My mother had to buckle him in. And then the bagpipe wasn't working well. I had to fuss with all the reeds, and we felt like we were, we propped him up.
Propping him up.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and we wanted him just to come out from the wings. But no, he always marched in from the back of the hall, so that's what he was doing. Okay, so he starts down the aisle, he starts up the stairs, and he trips. And I think what was so gripping for everybody in that hall is that he cried out like a child would cry out when he fell, like, "Oh!" And my mother and I, we were both there, and we both rushed to him, and of course, appropriately enough, she grabbed him and I grabbed the bagpipe, right? And I said, what do you want to do? He says, "I have to finish. I have to finish." So I handed him back the bagpipe, and he walked up on stage piping, and thunderous applause to finish out the tune. But I knew he couldn't do it again. That was all any of us could get through. So the next year, I dressed in my father's vest and Armstrong tartan skirt and went down to open up the festival.
Oh.
And my mother brought my father down to be in the audience. And, you know, I'm all proud, right? And I'm all dressed, and I'm with my bagpipe, and I say to my father, "How do I look?" And he says, "You're wearing my socks." Well, my mother had given me a pair of Armstrong tartan socks for the occasion. I said, "Mother just gave me these socks." "Those are my socks," he says. So we go to my mother, and I say, the socks?" She says, "Oh, George, I washed them and they shrunk, so I gave them to Jennifer. I didn't think you'd mind." And I say to my dad, "Well, talk about following in your footsteps.
Oh,
I'm wearing your socks."
you're killing me.
Both just burst into laughter. It was so fabulous to have that.
That is a beautiful story, and you made me get teary just like you did before. Now we've been talking about it, you're gonna play the bagpipes.
I am.
for
I'm
us,
going to
right?
go play the pipes for you.
Something for your dad and something for your mom.
I will.
I love that. We'll be right back, and Jennifer's gonna dazzle us with the bagpipes and the banjo.